Hi everyone, it's Nandan, co-founder and CEO of SureWorx. We are here at FCON Sydney, and with me is Atul Khanzode. Atul, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, Nandan.
So what we are aiming to capture here is the voice of the industry,
Yeah,
and yours and DPR's is a very important voice. Having followed you and what DPR does, not only you are a construction company with lots of interesting, challenging projects with a DNA for it, but you guys were one of the early pioneers into taking active interest in innovation and even cultivating that and even investing in that. So you would be seeing lots of new solutions coming in, lots of older solutions maturing, talking to customers on what the problems to be solved are. So I really wanted to explore where you feel the industry is at in terms of challenges and solutions, and what are the things that excite you with where we are heading in digitizing the industry today?
yeah. I mean, I think so. Definitely a lot of excitement around sort of automation in general.
Yeah.
I think I feel like we are moving away from what I would call sort of solutions that allow you to identify a problem to solutions that can actually help you solve the problems
Yeah.
a lot better. So I think AI definitely has a ton of hype right now, but also a ton of promise.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we are trying to figure out is how do you really best utilize it. And the two areas that we are sort of really thinking about is one, making it part of the workflows to essentially bring the knowledge of the company to an individual sort of a level. So an example of that would be a lot of companies have like manuals on pre-task plans and things like that,
Yeah.
or hazardous activity pre-task plans, but they're not accessible to people as easily. So one of the things that we're trying to figure out is, in their weekly work plan, if an hazardous activity gets identified, then essentially prompt people to be able to do that. Now that's a simple use case, but
Yeah.
something that we are trying to sort of really figure out, like how to make it best sort of what we realize is that I think the moment people get it in time,
Yeah.
that's what we are really wanting to do.
More decision augmentation than just
Yeah,
bouncing ball tasks.
yeah. And there's obviously a lot of other tasks that I think it can do that would be really
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, it's funny you mentioned that because I've got a presentation in the innovation panel if you're
Okay.
here, and we are going to talk about a couple of AI agents that we have
Yeah.
built on top of the platform. So,
Okay.
yeah, we are certainly taking baby steps towards it
Yeah.
as an industry. Your suggestions to AEC companies out there of all size in terms of how to get a nuanced view of their problem statement and how they can look for solutions out there?
Yeah, I mean, I think working with the real personas that they're trying to solve the problems for.
Yeah.
I think we see that. I mean, there's obviously two sources of sort of how construction tech companies are getting started. I mean, one is maybe more the solution side, like where somebody in technology thinks that we are a big industry with a lot of target market size and all that,
Yeah.
and trying to develop a solution. And then there's others like construction people that are getting, let's say, frustrated by a problem that are trying to bring solutions in it. And I feel like I think developing technology, I won't say is ever easy, but is an easier thing compared to understanding sort of the workflows that our people have to go through,
Yeah.
and sort of what you're trying to do. So I think spending time in the field for us, like spending time with our project engineers, project managers, superintendents, the people that they're trying to sort of get those solutions for is critical in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. And in your role within DPR, more so the VC arm, what do you look for in up and coming companies in terms of what impact they can have in the industry?
Yeah, I mean, I think so for us, there are a few things that we are looking at sort of from, if I put my sort of corporate venture hat. I think one is, does the solution do what it's sort of supposed to be,
What the
adding the
promise is?
benefit?
Yeah.
Yeah. The second thing that we are also looking for, so we don't invest in anything unless we have tried it out on a project.
Yeah.
And so many times what we find is that, I mean, there's obviously things that could be improved on the solution perspective.
Yeah.
But what we also find is, I think once we get to work with somebody on a pilot level, we get to know the team, and we are really more looking at sort of overall, like how do they respond, and how do they respond to the customer needs and things like that.
Yeah.
And what we have seen is that even though the product might be good or the vision might be good, sometimes the execution or how the founding team works together
Yeah.
is where we see the biggest challenge.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it gives us an idea whether we want to sort of go ahead with an investment or not.
Yeah. Yeah. How complete is their vision, and are they able to execute on it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Wonderful.
Yeah.
I wanted to go a little bit off track and just because I interact with a lot of young people coming into the industry.
Yeah.
And they are naturally digital natives.
Yeah.
But a lot of companies, they get exposure into are still within older way of working.
Yeah.
So yeah, just some message to new entrants, and how can we make this industry more attractive for them in terms of where we are heading?
Yeah, I mean, I think, and I have this conversation with our leaders all the time. I think the old notion that sort of, of like, I think our industry, has relied a lot on sort of heroism to deliver projects.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of that technology addresses a lot of that. Like, you don't have to work as hard. I think let the technology work for you, I would say. And I think, people get shied away from spending 12, 14, 16-hour days on a site and not really having a work-life balance.
Yeah.
I feel like the technical solutions kind of afford you to sort of do that now. So that gives me hope. So
yeah, wonderful. And also not only work-life balance, but ability to capture tacit knowledge. So if you have a lot of experienced people who are looking at retirement in next end of this decade, then if you have the right tool, you are able to capture those processes so that it's not in people's heads.
Yeah, I mean, it's an experiential industry, and the more you can benefit from what you've done in the past, the better it is.
Yeah, very good. Okay, now thank you for your time. We
No,
promise we'll
appreciate it.
keep this short, but really appreciate you coming down and sharing your thoughts.
Yeah, thank you, Shivendra.
Thank you.
Bye.
We are at FCON 24 here in Darling Harbour, Sydney, and I am very pleased to be joined by Claudelle Taylor.
Thank you,
Thank you
Nandan.
for joining me.
Thank you.
Please tell us something about yourself in terms of the role you have, the company you work for, and then I'm keen to explore number of things. You wear multiple hats, so it'd be great to explore that.
Okay, thanks. So I'm the General Manager for Innovation Integration at CIMIC Group.
Yeah.
CIMIC Group is a large engineering-led business. We do construction, mining, services. And I work specifically in the digital engineering piece of the business.
Yep.
And then we look after a digital strategy for all of the CIMIC Group companies,
Right.
which, some of them you might know, which is CPB Contractors, TEAS, UGL, Pacific Partnerships, EIC. So it's quite a number of them.
Yeah, great. And this is music to my ears because SureWorx was built for tier 1 companies because there is a level of complexity in terms of workload, multiple parties working on a common goal, very tight deadlines. Great. So with your deep experience in this domain, what are the common challenges that the industry is yet to solve at a holistic level? And then you can also segue into what green shoots of solutions you see out there.
Yeah.
It'd be great.
Well, I think the big challenge for us is to try and harmonise all of the systems that we use with a common language, and so that we get that consistent transfer or integration of data between the different systems so that we've got that holistic view, like you were saying. That is very difficult because all of the different disciplines we work with have their own ways of naming things or calling things, or different strategies. So if I'm a planner, I might call things differently from an estimator, who might call from the site engineer.
Yeah.
So the big thing that we're trying to do is harmonise that, and we call that integrated digital delivery in CIMIC. There's actually someone talking today from CPB Contractors on that very concept. So that, to me, and then to be able to take advantage of AI, which is the big thing at the moment, and it's going to continue to be. Don't get me wrong.
We are just at the vanguard of it.
Yes. But the issue there is we're not going to get the benefit we want out of AI if we haven't centralised our data and got the right taxonomy there to be able to make good use of that data. So that's where we're
that's
trying
a very nuanced understanding of the problem statement. I talk to a lot of companies and they are not able to put their finger on that. So it shows the maturity that your company and your team has in putting the finger on it. And in terms of solutions, what do you see as where the industry is at in terms of solving that or enabling you to solve it?
Well, I definitely think there are sort of three pillars of, I guess, big technology components that we need. So we need digital twin, which is I know there's a lot of talk around digital twin. The other one is ESG, so being able to adequately capture all of the ESG reporting requirements so that we can meet Scope 1, Scope 2, and then ultimately Scope 3 requirements. That is huge. ESG in our industry, that is a big thing that we have to we have to really solve that. And then I think AI, once we can understand that we've got the right way of speaking about all our data, then we can use that to start en masse extracting the right information for ESG, and then also the right information so that we can start to have a digital twin. So digital twin means a lot of things to a lot of people, as you know, but we want to have a way that we can, isolate those, I guess, processes that we can just use. How do I say it? So if I can take a workflow, make that a digital workflow, and then use the AI to start making some predictions about that flow.
Some conditions-based decisions.
It'll start to say, your threshold for a particular process is this. You're outside the threshold. These are the reasons you might be outside the threshold, and this is what you could do to fix that.
Not just follow the bouncing ball, but actually make some intelligent recommendations that are valuable to the process.
That's right. So that's, and that's a big thing. It's by no means, we can talk about it, but it's a huge thing. But that's, for me, that's where our industry needs to go.
Great. And the other thing I noticed in your introduction is that the digital engineering team itself shows that the company has the maturity to have this group invest in it and be that conduit between the requirements on the ground as well as what IT may need in terms of checking the boxes, security and data and all that. So how do you, in the back end, how do you ensure that when you do have a solution that is fit for purpose, that you are able to communicate the benefits of that back to the execs and different geographies so that a project running in Perth and project running in Sydney or Singapore has got the same access to knowledge and technology?
So one of the roles that I have in CIMIC and also working for the IT team is that we basically say innovation is at the front end, and then I work with the digital transformation team and the digital operations team that are also in IT. So we have a collaborative group where all of our operating companies come. So there's a representative from each of them. And I forgot to mention Leighton Asia is one of those companies as well. And then so we meet monthly and we talk about, so everyone has to do a business case if they want to do an innovation. All of us know about that business case all at once. We say, oh, that looks like a great idea, that looks like it could be transferable to other parts of the business. That's what we're looking for, even though I know sometimes it could be business specific.
Yeah.
But we're definitely looking for that, and then we all share each other's innovation roadmaps and we know what's going on. When the innovation gets to the point where we want to run it in production, then we have a handover process to the digital transformation team, and they take the innovation and then they run through all their checks. Is it secure? You know, is it, how can I
so
scale it?
You got a proper process to productionize
all that stuff. Yeah. So it's not like, so they have an understanding of things that are coming down the pipeline, but then and they're ready. We've done some very preliminary, I guess, checks at the start to say, okay, well, the data's not going to be stored in, I don't know, somewhere not safe
not in
to
Australia,
the company.
for example,
And then by the time it gets to that production piece, then we do have a bit more rigor around that.
Yeah.
But then we know, you know, the innovation has been through all those checks and balances, something that can be used by the whole group or parts of the group.
It sounds like you guys have worked hard and deliberately to break down the silos between different business units.
Yes.
And there is a considered process from ideation through to productionization.
Yes.
So that's great. Very advanced in your maturity in terms of adopting new technologies.
It took a long time. Don't get me wrong.
And that's a good segue into new talent coming into the industry, and it's great that CIMIC Group is embracing digital first, and that is really good news for new entrants, civil engineers, etc., coming into, because we owe it to them, the digital natives, to give them tools where they are focused on the what and the why rather than the how. So I would love for you to, given your experience and your leadership, to say something about the new entrants into the industry and why this industry could be a very rewarding industry for decades to come.
Yeah, look, I do. And I often think about that as well. I often think about, well, what would entice someone that's going to go to university or, just about to finish their school? What is it about construction or mining or services that would, encourage them to join our organisation? And I do believe it is, the digital tools are going to aid that transition into our business. So what we've started to do is we've started to look at software that is run on a gaming engine. So we've built a tool that allows you to basically plan out a construction sequence using a gaming engine, which we hope that, the next generation probably are very familiar with that kind of technology.
Further,
And, we've built it so that, you've got model cranes and model excavators and model people and, and then the actual model of what's going to be built, and you can move these resources around. You can work out what sequence the construction is, the construction methodology.
You can play it out before it happens.
It's a bit, I don't want to say a game, but it is a bit
it's gamifying
the construction methodology. And I hope that is interesting for young engineers or young people that want to come and work on the construction sites, to know that they've got the physical work they need to do, but also that they can use these digital tools.
It's a mentally stimulating thing in terms of working at the vanguard of these things. Great. Wonderful. And very interestingly, you mentioned before we kicked off that CIMIC has also invested in creating almost a startup within the company. Please tell us more about that.
Oh, yes. So one of our innovations was to form a completely separate organisation called IDD Tech, and IDD stands for Integrated Digital Delivery. And we started to look at, well, what software have we built in CIMIC that potentially could be commercialised, which we had some things. So we basically pulled together all of those teams, put them into this external company, and then we said to ourselves, okay, whatever we can, whatever revenue we can generate with these existing commercial products, we would use that to reinvest in ourselves so that we could innovate in new products. So that's the whole premise. And, as we were saying before, because we've got access to all of the SMEs we could ever need access to,
Yeah.
we know that we're hitting the mark because
Yeah.
those people, those projects are saying,
Yeah.
this is what we need.
What you put forward is
Yeah.
valuable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they
Well,
validate
wonderful.
that.
Now that's that is very good to know in terms of how mature and considered the process is and the entrepreneurial spirit within the company. So yeah, no, we wish you all the best, and
Thank you
thank
so
you
much.
for giving us your time.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Hi everyone, it's Nandan, co-founder and CEO of SureWorx. I'm here at FCON Sydney 2024. I'm here with my good friend Shivendra Kumar. Welcome, Shivendra.
Yeah, thank you very much for
Good.
having me.
I know you have a very busy day and you are core to the program, so I don't want to keep you long, but I didn't want to miss this opportunity to pick your brains and bring out some insights, some nuggets for our listeners.
Yeah,
So do you mind introducing yourself and what you do and your experience within the AEC and construction tech industry, please?
Yeah, brilliant. Always good to catch up with you and great to be here. So I run my own consulting practice. It's called Shivendra Co. And we work with growing mid-tier construction companies on their strategy, process improvement and technology implementation. It's a very important space as we look at the sustainability of construction businesses. In terms of this conference, it's a great get-together of the entire technology ecosystem because we've got the clients, we've got developers, we've got resellers, we've got people who are really passionate about the industry. So it's a great event. And I'm very happy that SureWorx is here once again. I think you guys were here last year. So that shows your commitment to this cause as well.
Yeah, great. And so what I wanted to ask you, which is very unique question to you and not other interviews we have done, is if I can classify you as like a CEO, a C-level whisperer, right? Companies acknowledge they need to do something, but then they rely on you or your consultants to bring clarity to what they should do, right? So how comes later, but you sort of help them with the why, and then you also help them with the how in terms of process mapping and that. So just walk us through, if there is some construction mid-tier company listening to this, some good practice around how to become digital first, advantages of that, and how would you suggest they go about taking some baby steps towards it?
That's a loaded question. That's usually a day's workshop, I must say. But in terms of when we look at technology, the thing for everyone to acknowledge is that technology is changing the fastest it's ever been in history.
Yeah.
But it will also be the slowest if we look at today as a start point, right? So it's only going to go faster. So the thing that growing construction companies need to acknowledge is that if they don't jump on board now, it's going to be too late. What used to take 5 years takes 5 months, and in the future will take 5 weeks or 5 days, right? So it's the time to get on board. So it's a time where we can take risks. But the good part is that we've got vendors, we've got enough businesses that have tried technology and are seeing the benefits of it. So it's not a sandbox project, which was the case a couple of years back. Back in the day, we'd be looking for one construction-related project management software. Now there's heaps, and they are niches like what your product does. It's a niche product, right? So there's lots that is coming through. The advice I give to businesses always is to think through where they want to go and to look at what the gaps are and start on the journey. And in starting on the journey, it's not to look at a big transformation of how the entire business operates. It's finding that pain point and getting to start to solve those. And from there, the incremental improvements happen. So what I would normally call is, it's not digital transformation for growing mid-tier businesses. It's more digital intervention. What your biggest problem is, how could technology be a solution? Go try it. You learn so much more by doing and solving it, and that sets the base for future improvements or future tech implementations.
Great. Okay. Well, you've done really good justice to that in few minutes. What are the key success criteria that are non-negotiable? Once that point has landed that they should do something, and they should do this technology intervention. What are the couple of things in terms of organizational change management and culture that you would suggest they adopt for best chance at success?
Yeah, you've answered the question.
Okay.
So I normally tell people that a technology project is not a technology project; it's actually a people project.
Yeah.
Right. So we are changing how people do work. It's how people present themselves at work. So people are a key part to any technology project.
Yeah.
More so that it is actually not a technology project.
Yeah.
It's a people. It's a change project.
Yeah.
So it needs to be understood from day one.
Yeah.
The right stakeholders need to be involved.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's a project that requires leadership.
Yeah.
Involving people does not mean that we always go with what people might think, because a vision is often held by the executives, and
Yeah.
they need to be firm and committed to that particular vision while seeking inputs. It's a fine balance.
Yeah.
But the success of a project is always dependent on the implementation
Yeah.
and the adoption.
Yeah. of
So
course.
we always advise to say, okay, what are some barriers to adoption?
Yeah.
And then work backwards to say, how do I ensure that when this gets a technology solution gets implemented, there's high adoption.
Yeah.
To my earlier point around digital intervention, if there is a pain point in the business, employees feel that as a pain point,
Yeah.
they're committed to solving it, because that's the reason why they go home late, or why they have to work after hours, or why they have to work on Saturdays.
Yeah.
They'll be very enthusiastic
Yeah.
to come and solve that.
Yes.
And if you're putting a technology solution to solve a problem that's also the biggest problem,
Yeah.
that's a great way to start.
Yeah, and one of the last podcasts we did, the clear message was that if you get this right, and it is tricky to marshal this, but the advantage of doing this right, besides positive ROI and quality of work and finishing on time, improving margin hopefully, is work-life balance. And you can pitch that to your employees to say, well, if we have holistic, comprehensive adoption of tools and solutions and automation of workflows, then we get better balance too.
Yeah, I'm in business as well, of course.
Yeah.
And without the technology tools and without implementing that to manage my team, it'll
Yeah.
be very difficult for me to be even in this type of events.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
it's a big aid, and if done right,
Yeah,
the potential or the improvement potential for the business is enormous.
yeah, yeah. What are a couple of things that you are really excited about in next 12 to 24 months in where the industry is at? What do you think is the game changer in terms of trends and solutions?
Yeah, I think trend-wise, it's good to see a lot of the clients starting to come along. I think
Yeah.
the government has acknowledged that there is a problem, and I think there's more enthusiasm or eagerness to drive change,
Yeah.
which then empowers the head contractors and the contractors that are below them
Yeah.
to embrace change, which previously was not the case. I think they're starting to come around on the journey.
Yeah.
I think we have a lot of tools and solutions. What's great now is that a lot of these tools are not developed by software designers. It's actually been designed by construction professionals.
Yeah.
And it makes it completely
Yeah,
different.
their,
right? So-
their understanding of the problem statement is
Yeah.
very deep and very nuanced.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then to couple with that, I think we've got a generation that's coming through which is very technology savvy
Yes.
and hungry to implement technology. So while the aging workforce in construction remains a problem,
Yeah.
there is a breath of fresh air coming through with
Yeah.
a generation that's much more open
Yeah.
to embracing technology, a generation that does not accept Excel as a tool, for example, right? They
Yeah.
like applications that are collaborative, etc. So I think these three things put together gives me good reason to be excited about the future of the industry and where we are headed.
Great. And finally, you do a lot of you produce a lot of content yourself, very valuable content. So tell everyone where they can find you, where they can find your company and your podcast.
Yeah, thank you. I run a podcast called the Competitive Contractor Podcast. We do about 10 episodes a year. So it's very limited, but it's topics that are relevant from people who are, let's say, good voices for that particular year. So I have them on the podcast. You can find me on LinkedIn, or you can visit my website, www.shivendra.com. And then thanks for having me here.
No problem.
Really
Great to have
appreciate the
you.
opportunity, and good luck with your venture and for inspiring the industry's future as well.
It's a collaborative game, and it's a positive loop. So great talking to you today.
Yeah, awesome.
right, thank you.
We rarely get a chance to sit behind the scenes of SureWorx and look at the state of the industry, the state of technology in construction. And so I wanted to take the chance while we're here at the summit to get your reflections on, I guess, how people approach technology in construction.
Yeah.
And the little tidbits of insight that you've gained from your conversations here so far, and where you think the industry is heading when it comes to technology in construction.
Yeah, well, I mean, we are at a very exciting point. The industry is at a point where it has sort of learned to walk, and it can start running. So it's at an inflection point, where there was dearth of innovation and solution, literally just 3 options available in the market 5 years back. Now you've got plenty more. And I think we are going from Gen 1 to Gen 2, and by that I mean Gen 1 solutions where I understand one problem and I've got a solution for it, which is fine. But then Gen 2 is more around how to aggregate them, because you certainly cannot have proliferation of 15 different small island apps. The people on site are quite busy. They can't and don't want to open 5 different apps with 5 different UI, UXs, logins, etc. So my analogy would be, it was great to have Microsoft Word and Excel, and then came Outlook, and then came other Microsoft bits. But now what you have is Office 365. And once you get Office 365, you just get the whole package. Like you don't need Slack for messaging and Zoom for video. It's just all in one package.
Yeah.
And there's a market for it. And that's what I mean by Gen 2, that you move from island solutions to more aggregated platform solutions. And that means that your data gets more structured, more organized. And once the data gets more structured, and everyone says that in AI, the foundational bit is structure of your data. Otherwise, it's garbage in, garbage out. So I think the move from point solutions to aggregated platform solutions, but still retaining the flexibility of, taking a couple of Lego pieces out, so modular solutions. Then making your data as meta-rich as possible. Metadata rich, and then once you have that, then you have the conditions for AI agents to come in.
Yep.
That's why I say it's at an inflection point, because if you sort all those sort of license to drive things up, then you are on to a pretty exciting journey ahead.
And the technology is there too now, so we can feasibly have something that is more of a comprehensive solution under the one roof. We're not having to use, I guess, bespoke technological solutions. There's more universal capabilities within these digital platforms, right?
Yeah, very true. And so platform play is one. Starting to think about the AI agent side is another. And what's the difference between normal automation to AI agent? Well, normal automation is task focused. It's just a bouncing ball that does 3 things, whereas AI agent can deal with unstructured data, and not only does the task, but it focuses on decision making or decision augmentation.
Yep.
So it does much more than the bouncing ball. So structured versus unstructured data, and task orientation versus decision orientation. And so that's what we're looking at.
Just double check. It's all well and good to talk about these all-in-one technological solutions and AI and the frontier of technology, but at the end of the day, there are still workers at the end of these solutions. There's still businesses that are looking at their own business case, their profit margins, the actually delivering the value that they're there to deliver. We've had a couple of conversations today that's really struck me. to reinforce that point that, we're still using paper in a lot of instances. We're still having to operationalize this technology in remote areas. And I think there's a bit of a gap with the vision of technology in the construction industry and the real practical application. Would you agree?
Yeah, and I would agree. And it's a slow march to success. And that is also a factor of the industry where change management is a little bit more challenging for good reason than what I'm used to in non-construction domains. You've got more field-based work, access to internet, and bandwidth is getting better, with Starlink and everything. But yeah, your app needs to be offline native, which is not a big requirement for a lot of other softwares. People are very time poor. Like they are on site, weather conditions, lots of subcontractors coming in at short notice, delays in deliveries, all that is happening. Lots of risks to manage. And that would mean that people default to what they have known and the processes that have worked for them for 10, 15 years. So they are open to change. It's just that it becomes more than solution deployment. It becomes an organizational change management initiative. And for that you need, it's bottom up and top down. So top down, messaging from execs that we are going to embrace digital, and that is for risk management, improving margins and work-life balance, and that becomes a consistent holistic message in every forum. So there is a push from top down culturally, and then there are solutions that we talked about that make adoption easier. It should be as easy as the favorite app or game that you have. And if you gamify that a little bit, 5 buttons and you're there, then there's incentive to go, well, that's not too hard. So I think change management, top-down messaging, being consistent, making sure that there is an innovation forum or digital team that becomes this conduit between a suitable solution, the IT team and the ops team, which is ultimately going to use it. And then how to bring the back office and the on-site crews together. And the software needs to do that with good training, intuitive interface, and data which is presented to them where the dashboards and all that makes sense. So it's a multi-layered thing.
Well, within the organization itself, this industry is reliant upon partnerships, and in particular when talking about asset management and asset life cycle, we're looking at multiple handoffs across the life of that asset, right? Yeah. If you were an asset owner looking at really valuing the digital assets of a project in terms of being able to ensure better quality of life of that asset over its whole lifespan, how would you inspire your partners to, I guess, invest their headspace and their time in solutions like SureWorx?
Well, firstly, bringing about collaborative contracting, that if we were to work together, everyone wins. You manage risks better, gives you the best chance to hit your timeline and your margins. There could be more lessons learned, and you capture that tacit knowledge as a containerized workflow, so that if you guys collaborate again, then the template is ready, and hence you can aim for higher margin, smoother operations. So just making sure that it is not a zero-sum game. Everyone wins when you collaborate, and being very deliberate around the data sharing, because the bane of any solution in terms of success or otherwise is the depth with which you share data, and you share only that data that you are contracted to share. But then when you share, it is through permission, not just a bunch of PDFs and zip files, and that it's a very rich data which becomes searchable and all that. So so just set up the collaborative contracting, start talking from the inception. If one win, everyone wins. That becomes a model, and then clear data contracts between partners, vendors.
And, I mean, look, it's also a case of seeking those vendors that have that inbuilt in their operations, that are good custodians of the data.
Yeah.
It's not just an afterthought.
Yeah.
And
And the data is everywhere. So the industry has operated since early days.
beginning of time.
And so the data is there. It is just in format which is not conducive for effective collaboration and intelligent search and things like that, right? So if someone were to give you a handover after a project of a 10 gig, 20 gig file or 2 terabyte file with 3,000 files in it, it will be finding a needle in the haystack if you were to find where that defect was and who dealt with it when and whose liability it is to fix it. So the data is there. It is being handed over, but it is just not ready for intelligent use and smarter search and all that. So it's about converting that data into something which is end-to-end digital, overlaying data contracts on it so that only right people have limited access to it. And then the magic of digitization happens in terms of dashboarding, search, AI agents, etc.
You can have the most technologically advanced and modern sports car imaginable. You don't have the right fuel to put in it, and you don't have the roads to drive it on.
Yeah,
it sits there useless in the garage unless you want it as a really expensive.
It's a museum piece. Yes. So that's very true.
I think that's our the YouTube thumbnails. Don't let your ERP be a museum piece. Don't let your construction management software be a.
And the way and I'll cover that in the innovation talk coming up. That we see SureWorx like systems as the fourth pillar of the industry, and the other three pillars being an ERP system, a bunch of engineering software, including 3D and BIM software that you would use, and project control software. So those are the three pieces of software that a company is invariably going to have in some form today. May that be spreadsheets or some rudimentary or end-to-end ERP. So SureWorx is everything but that, because that problem's been solved. A lot of them also overarch into what SureWorx tries to do, which is effective end-to-end field data capture, document, asset lifecycle management. But they don't do it well enough because it's an overreach.
Yeah.
So they would do their core finance functions as 8, 9 out of 10, but health and safety or quality could be 4 out of 10 because it's just a basic form.
A tacked-on solution.
Yeah. So that's where we go fairly deep in terms of what value we add out of box, and then it sort of adds on. That becomes the fourth pillar among the other three pillars, and that it integrates holistically.